Good morning, welcome. You're watching Market Cafe on ET Now. I am Harsh Sahita and with me is Ankita Saxena. Now we'll take you through all that's happening in global markets, and that's something that Ankita does every day, so I'll leave it to Ankita.
Thank you, Harsh. Looks like the investors are really hopeful on the CPI inflation data that's likely to come out today. Now, that's a very important inflation number that's expected as of today. Now, it's the pace of the consumer inflation is expected to have fallen slightly in December from the month prior because of a sharp drop in the gasoline and the energy prices. But the annual rate is still likely to remain uncomfortably high. Now, according to Dow Jones estimates, economists are expecting a decline of 0.1% in the consumer price index on a monthly basis, but the inflation is still expected to climb at a 6.5% on a year-on-year basis. Now, the headline inflation that stood at 7.1 in November is now expected to come in at 6.5% for December. So that's the hope that investors are really, waiting and watching out for. That's something that everyone is hoping for. And on the back of that enthusiasm, the U.S. markets rallied yesterday. Look at Dow Jones Industrial Average. It closed up 268 points. S&P 500 gained 1.2%, and the Nasdaq Composite led the indices for yet another day, adding 1.7%. And this is, mind you, the fourth day of straight gains for the Nasdaq. So the investors are really hoping that the inflation has perhaps cooled off a bit. The European markets also followed suit, and they were also higher up, ended the day in green. DAX was up 1%, CSE was up more than 0.5%. And FTSE and Stock 600 was also up more than 0.25% in trade. So good market data coming in, but the main key data is tonight, the CPI inflation data for December from the US markets. But how is the crude faring, Harsh?
Well, yes, Ankita, the key number, as you very well said, is the US inflation number, because that will determine where the dollar index goes, and the dollar index currently has slipped below that 103 mark. It'll come on your screens shortly. But on the back of that, what happens to crude? Crude goes up, and crude has gone up quite sharply. In fact, we're seeing oil below the $78 a barrel mark. We're seeing Brent above the $83 per barrel. Mind you, this was sub 80 just yesterday, and that's on the back of better than expected demand coming through as well. Of course, the China reopening is the other factor that crude prices have factored in. So the China reopening, plus on top of it, the dollar index cooling, and of course the inflation data, which is expected to come through. Those three factors are really pushing crude higher and well above. We're seeing 3.5% on Brent. Don't remember the last time I saw that, Ankita.
Absolutely, Harsh. But let's quickly look at the events that you need to watch out for today. Now, we have the industrial production data that's likely to come out today. Also, we have Q3 earnings that have begun, and we have HCL Tech and Infosys earnings that will be coming out today. So keep an eye out on that. Also, we have some other earnings that will also see the light of the day today. It's Cyient, Anand Rathi, Den Networks, GM Breweries, and GTPL Hathway will also have their Q3 earnings coming out. We also have the PVR Inox deal. NCLT will be giving a hearing on that. And we have a new listing on the stock exchanges, and that's Sah Polymers that will be making its stock market debut. So these are the events you need to watch out for in today's session.
Well, yes, thank you for that, Ankita, taking us through all those events. But in major cues to watch out for, December CPI reading. That may show that inflation is actually slowing down in the US. This reading could help determine the size of the Fed's next rate hike. According to a survey by the Dow Jones, US CPI may come in at 6.5% as compared to the previous month's 7.1%. Sharp decline there.
And a computer outage at the Federal Aviation Administration disrupted flight schedules across the United States. The White House has ordered an investigation after ruling out the possibility of a cyber attack. As of now, the grounding order has been lifted and flights have started taking off. Reports suggest that the disruption caused 1,200 delayed flights and 91 cancelled flights. We caught up with Abhishek Banerjee, practice lead CAPA India, who said that such an incident is unprecedented. Let's take a look.
So this NOTAM system has never had this kind of an issue. So there is no such precedence that we can quote which has occurred in the past. The first such kind of a issue. However, there has been other issues which has caused system-wide disruption. I think one which was last was in 2014 in the US, but this is not a very common kind of an issue, and hence we cannot comment on on what time it will take. There's no precedence really.
And more job cuts. Well, the good news doesn't keep pouring in, Ankita. And BlackRock is planning to dismiss about 500 employees, which is roughly 2.5% of its global workforce. The move comes after the world's biggest asset manager grappled with sharp declines in both the equity and bond markets last year. The headcount reductions were announced in an internal memo from the chief executive Larry Fink and President Rob Capito, according to reports.
And some more layoff news coming in again, Harsh. Meanwhile, Alphabet's research organization, Verily, is also laying off 15% of its staff in a restructuring move as it strives for financial independence from parent company. The cut will affect about 240 people. Verily, which specializes in health sciences, is one of the Google's sister companies operating within Alphabet's Other Bets category.
Well, but it's not just bad news. Binance is planning a hiring spree in 2023, even as crypto firms lay off huge swathes of staff amid continued pressure on cryptocurrencies. The world's largest crypto exchange said the company increased headcount in 2022 from 3,000 people to almost 8,000 people for the current year. It will raise the number of staff by 15 to 30%.
And fashion giant LVMH is embarking on one of its biggest management shakeup in the years. It has elevated Petro Beccari to lead Louis Vuitton. Delphine Arnault, the daughter of CEO Bernard Arnault, has been named the chairman and CEO of Christian Dior. The changes announced will be effective from the 1st of February.
Well, and Tesla is close to sealing a preliminary deal to set up a factory in Indonesia, which would secure a lot of nickel supply for the automaker. The plant would produce as many as 1 million cars a year. The country's investment minister confirmed talks with Indonesia. The talks include plans for production facilities and to facilitate the company's supply chain.
And Brazilian judge orders arrest of Bolsonaro's ex-minister after Brasilia's rampage. Justice Alexander de Moraes ordered the arrest of Anderson Torres, who was Bolsonaro's justice minister before taking over this month as the public security chief for Brasilia. Now, SC also asked the arrest of Fabio Augusto Vera, the head of Brasilia's military police, one of the members of officials responsible for protecting the key Brasilia government buildings. The details of the charges levied against them were immediately cleared.
Right, and with that, we'll slip into a very short break. Of course, we'll go to policy and major market news on the other side of this break. Welcome back. You're watching Market Cafe on ET Now. And there is yet another deal in the works on the skincare space. This is after we heard news of Carlyle Group buying a majority stake in beauty products brand VLCC. Sources are now telling ET Now that Kedara Capital has acquired dermatology company Oliva Skincare and Health Clinic for about $100 million and could be taking a controlling stake in the company. Let me bring in my colleague Anurag Joshi for more on this. Anurag.
The pace of acquisitions in the wellness and beauty industry is quickening. private equity firm Kedara Capital has acquired dermatology outlets chain Oliva Skin and Hair Clinic for about $100 million. Sources told ET Now Kedara bought out Oliva's founders and other shareholders, including private equity firm Invesant in the company. Now, Hyderabad-based Oliva was set up in 2009 by dermatologist Prashant Soma, and the company operates 23 outlets in skin and hair care products. Kedara's acquisitions comes on the heels of another acquisition in the direct-to-consumer wellness sector. Global private equity player Carlyle bought out VLCC in and about $300 million transaction, the Economic Times reported today.
Right, and the Cabinet has approved the promotional incentives for RuPay debit cards on low-value traction. Rupees 2,600 crores in financial incentives has been approved for promotion of RuPay debit card and Bheem UPI transactions for the year FY22-23. My colleague Prakash is here with more details on this.
Yes, sir. It's a confirmation of our news break as Cabinet has decided to approve financial incentives to promote digital payments in the country. Cabinet has approved rupees 2,600 crore as financial incentives that will be given on use of RuPay debit cards and low-value transaction that is being made through, Bheem UPI. When it comes to transaction being made through Bheem UPI, that will be low value transaction, which is up to 2,000 rupees. Also, incentives will be given on person to merchant basis, where the customer and bank both will be incentivized. When it comes to direct incentives to the bank will be given incentives to strengthen their digital infrastructure so that they could, increase penetration of digital payments in remote areas. That rupees 2,600 crore that has been approved for financial year 22-23, which is almost double the amount that was approved for last year. The second important decision that the Cabinet has taken today with regard to formation of 3 new cooperative societies in the country. The 3 new multi-state cooperative society will be set up, one for export promotion, second one for organic farming, and third one for production of seeds under Multi-State Cooperative Society Act 2002.
Well, thank you, and stay by, because India's indirect tax collections have grown 11% in a year's time. Now, the government has released initial data of its direct tax collections for FY23, and it seems like the government coffers are looking swell. The direct gross tax collections have grown about 25% to 14.7 lakh crore till the 10th of January of the current fiscal, of course. Prakash is standing by, and he's going to take us through more of those details. Prakash.
So the Finance Ministry has released provisional numbers of direct tax collection for the financial year 2023. Direct tax collection up to Jan 10, 2023 is being seen at rupees 14.71 lakhs crore, which is 24.58% higher than the corresponding period of last year. It is almost 87% of the total budget estimate of direct taxes for the financial year 2023. When it comes to growth rate for corporate income tax, it is close to 20% during this period, whereas over 30% growth has been recorded in personal income tax collection. If you talk about refunds, as per the provisional data, refunds amounting to rupees 2.40 lakh crore has been issued during 1st April 2020 to Jan 10, 2023. Issue of refund is close to 59% higher than refund issued during same period of last year.
Right. Moving on, the Mumbai Trans Harbour project is a bridge that will connect Mumbai and Navi Mumbai by December this year. Now, once completed, it will be the longest sea link in India. My colleague Aishwarya Patil is here with more details on this.
We're currently mid-sea, 13 kilometers away almost from the Shivri dock, and behind us the bridge that is being constructed is the Mumbai Trans Harbour Link project. Now this project will connect 22 kilometers of distance and you can travel and commute between Mumbai and Navi Mumbai in just 20 to 25 minutes as they claim. Now this project has been divided and is being constructed by different entities, and package 1 and 3 of this project is being constructed by L&T, whereas the package 2 that you can see right behind us is being constructed by a joint venture between Tata and Daewoo. Now, what's special about this pink OSD as they call it, or the steel deck as they call it, is that it's painted in pink because it represents the flamingo that migrate back and forth to Shivdi. Also, this also will mark the installation of this 180 meters long deck, which will be which will materialize in the presence of Chief Minister Eknath Shinde today. Apart from that, this project is currently at has been completed 90%, and by the end of this year, which is December 2023, it is expected to be completed, and this will make it India's longest sea bridge.
Well, Aishwarya has been in the thick of things, and she spoke with N. Srinivas, the commissioner of the MMRDA as well. Listen in to that latest update on the bridge.
The catchment of these two lines is different from the existing mass transit system, and the decongestion will happen in 2-3 ways. One is intermodal integration, multimodal integration that we are trying to do with city buses and with other IPT, intermediate public transport, and as well as private transport. And for last mile connectivity, we are also trying to provide some bikes, which will be non-motorized transport. So that will also happen. That is one set of it. And second is by shifting from private transport to public transport, which is, I just said, as a modal shift. I am sure this will reduce not only the congestion but also the pollution.
If we compare Mumbai to other cities, Delhi got its first metro back in the early 2000s. Bangalore, even Chennai, I guess, got their metro lines before Mumbai did. And we took a lot of time in getting our first metro in the city. Now we have one operational, and the rest of the 13 are still in the pipeline, and 2A and 7 will mark the second phase of it. When do you expect the whole metro construction in Mumbai to be completed?
I expect the metro construction to be completed in 2 to 3 years. 3 years is the timeline. But I am sure this year, 2023, especially in MMRDA, we are marking it as a year of completions. This is 2 projects, and many more projects will be actually commissioning in Mumbai. And as far as to answer your question specifically, I am sure in 3 years, a lot of things will be completed. Definitely, that I can say. You can ask me after 3 years if they are not.
Right. So 2 to 3 years before we complete the metro work in Mumbai. We'll be keeping an eye out on that one. Now, before we slip into a short break, let's quickly look at the lineup for the market that's coming up right after this show. We have Sameer Arora of Helios Capital. We also have Shrivar Kheruka of Borosil on the Capex roadmap. We also have Prashant Peti of easemytrip.com on the travel trends, and we have Asad Daud from Sah Polymers on the big IPO listing.
Welcome back. You're watching Market Cafe on ET Now. I'm going to quickly take you through how Asian markets are currently doing. We are seeing our very own SGX Nifty up around 0.25%, 50 points higher, flirting with that 18,000 mark. But at the moment, we're seeing that the US futures are absolutely flat. So we saw US markets in the green yesterday, but US futures currently are flat, and that indicates a largely flat start. But nonetheless, given the positive close yesterday, we are seeing pretty much green across the board in Asian markets. We're seeing the ASX 200, which is up over almost 1%. We're seeing the Nikkei flat though, absolutely flat, but in the green nonetheless, holding on to some gains. We're looking at the Hang Seng and the Shanghai, both of them in the green. The Hang Seng in fact is up over 1%, the Shanghai is up 0.25% as we speak, and we're seeing the SX 200 as well, if I can request the producer to flash that, and we're seeing the Kospi just about flat but trading with a positive bias. We're seeing Kospi up around 0.33% as we speak as well. So across the board we're seeing green at the moment, and the SGX Nifty also in line with those Asian indices up around 0.25% or thereabouts. So at the moment we're looking at a positive start. Where oil is concerned, we did do a check on oil, but we'll quickly move to gold, where it is as of yesterday largely the same, unchanged at the moment, $1,880 an ounce, even despite the US dollar slipping slightly, and the US 10-year bond yield continues to be and hover around the 3.5% mark at the moment. So that's where we are at, where global markets and the Asian markets are concerned.
Well, thank you so much for that roundup, Harsh. Now we have Lisa in the studio to give you a lowdown of all the stocks that you need to keep an eye out on in today's trade. So Lisa, tell us, what are the stocks that we need to watch out for?
Well, good morning. For starters, we have some result updates. 5paisa Capital has updated on their results, and the revenue PAT, they're quite flat on sequential basis. It's just 5% and 3% respectively for both revenue and PAT. Margins were 27% versus 25% on Q-on-Q basis. Management has said that the increased customer base of more than 15 lakh crore customers will boost the revenue and profitability significantly in FY24. Moving on to Antony Waste, the revenue was up 7% year-on-year. Total tonnage handled was 4% year-on-year. The company said that the shortfall is expected, the shortfall for the sale of compost is expected in Q4 FY23. Sun Pharma has launched anti-cancer drug NOTAM in India. For PB FinTech, the RBI has granted in-principle approval for setting up the business of account aggregator to PB financial account aggregators. HUL has completed the acquisition of 51% shareholding of Zyvi for a total consideration of 264 crore for the first tranche. LG Equipment's US arm, that is Patons INC, which is a material subsidiary of the company and contributes more than 20% of the sales, they have sold its property. PVR Inox merger deal, a final NCLT hearing is expected today. RailTel has received orders worth rupees 170 crore. On block deal alert, we have Nykaa, where 1.42 crore shares are on block, which represents around 0.5% of equity, and shares will be offered at 4% discount to CMP. Moving on to the corporate action, we have Triveni Turbine, where the buyback is expected to open on 17 Jan and close on 31st Jan. The tender offer buyback is to be done at 350 per share. So these are the stocks that investors will keep on their radar for today.
Well, thank you so much for that, Lisa. A whole host of stocks you were just rattling off today, but we'll quickly move to agrochem. I also understand that there is some channel check which has come through for agrochem. Could you talk to us about that as well?
Yes, absolutely. Antique has conducted a channel check on agrochem. They say that the domestic industry is likely to, post subdued growth, and that will be in low double digit during Q3 FY23. The domestic demand is likely to witness challenges, and that is because of the delay in Rabi sowing and also the high channel inventory. Export-oriented players are expected to outperform domestic players, and they are likely to record healthy growth, and that will be in mid-teen double-digit growth on year-on-year basis. Well, the export players' performance is likely to be led by strong global demand, better pricing, and favorable currency movement. However, though the global demand is expected to be strong, European region is expected to be impacted owing to challenges on drought conditions and euro depreciation. Well, the prices of generic molecules have started to soften, but the specialty molecules, they continue to remain at elevated levels. Whereas the agrochemical prices, that has started to decelerate as China issue has started improving. So that's the update coming in from the channel checks conducted by Antique.
Well, thank you for all those details, Lisa. Do keep an eye out on all the stocks she just mentioned. Also, moving on, let's take you through all that we had from day one of the Auto Expo 2023. Let's go across and check that out.
All of this are driving change and driving growth not only for the Tata Group but for the Indian economy. Specifically on energy transition, we have a group-wide sustainability initiative called Alingana, where we are driving sustainability through 3 pillars. One is our commitment to zero emission. Second, our commitment to circular economy. And the third, to preserve nature and biodiversity.
We've announced multiple things, and the most important of them is what we call the hydrogen internal combustion engine. And this is a zero carbon technology by which we can use an internal combustion engine, burn grey or blue hydrogen, which is already available in the market, and have it propel commercial vehicles without significant change to the vehicles itself. And along with that, we are launching what is called a fuel agnostic platform. And by fuel agnostic platform, we mean that with the same platform, the engine can burn diesel, can burn ethanol, can burn biodiesel, can be used with LNG, with CNG, and also with hydrogen, which means give us any fuel and we can work with it in our product. Cummins has stated that by 2050 it will become a zero carbon company, and we think that will happen in phases, and we think it will happen in 3 major phases. Between now and 2030 is where existing technologies will continue to evolve, and the new technologies like hydrogen internal combustion engines, fuel cells, and battery electric vehicles will slowly start to get introduced. Then we have a period between 2030 and 2040, which is what we describe as the messy middle. In that time frame, whole bunch of technologies will be competing with each other, and based on the geography, applications, and the maturity of those technologies, some of the technologies will start to emerge as winning technologies, and scale will start to get built up for the infrastructure. And then comes the final period between 2040 and 2050, when the technologies mature, scale is built up, the infrastructure is ready, and then wide adoption of the mature technologies to go towards zero carbon can happen.
And what we believe that anything which can be electrified in this world will be electrified. So, and of course, and I think three-wheeler is the first segment which is going to be electrified, in a very big way.
Okay, so the launch is done, but when are we going to see these products on road going ahead on the distribution front? And also going ahead, what are the plans on the production number? Because you already have a capacity, so how are you planning to incubate the electric side of it as well?
You see, as you know that we have got capacity of 1,20,000, including both the plants in Ahmedabad and Rajkot. So sooner or later, this entire capacity will be converted into electric. So obviously, it might take 3 years to 5 years. I don't know about that, because that market will determine that what number it can consume.
Well, sticking to auto though, let's look at Aquarius's dealer check on Maruti Suzuki. The checks have observed that the overall demand is currently mixed pan-India. Let's look at the details of the channel check. Somit, my colleague here, is here with more.
Well, if you see what the dealers are suggesting, that is on an overall basis, the demand is mixed, because South and East is doing good on the demand front, North is doing reasonably well, but the demand has been weak in the Western region. Now, demand has also been weak among entry-level products and among the first-time buyers. Now, dealers are suggesting that models below Swift, that are Alto, K10 and Celerio, it's becoming difficult for dealers to liquidate their stock, and despite higher discounts that we had seen in the month of December, dealers are still carrying on with a good inventory level. Now, another reason why the demand is weak among the entry-level buyers is because of the interest rate hikes that we have seen currently. Now they're also suggesting that Nexa channel has been doing well, and the new Grand Vitara that the company had launched, or the waiting period for this product has come down. Apart from the Grand Vitara, other models that currently have waiting period include Brezza, Ertiga, XL6 and Desire, which means that these models have been doing good among the users. Now the dealers are also suggesting that the demand slowdown has been seen more prominently in the rural cities, while urban cities demand has been still better. Now they're also suggesting that mid-size and SUVs are doing well mainly in the urban market, and they are not been performing much better when it comes to the rural market. And when it comes to the CNG segment for Maruti Suzuki, they are saying that the demand for CNG cars is moving despite the price hikes that we had seen, not only for the cars but also the price hike that we had seen for CNG. And they're also saying that in Nexa segment, XL6 CNG is doing well, and Grand Vitara CNG is also expected to be launched very soon. And they're also saying that wherever CNG network is improving, the demand has been consistently rising up in those regions.
Right, thank you for that, Somit. And I'll ask you to stay back, as cement industry has also come out, Centrum Broking has come out with a cement industry channel check. And Somit, take us through all the details for that as well.
Well, the common feedback that we are getting from this channel check is that the demand is good and pricing is likely to remain stable with an upward bias in the near term. And they're also saying that there is no visible change in the operations of the Adani Group post the acquisition of Ambuja and ACC. Now, for the northern region, the dealers are suggesting that Ultratech and Shree Cement's volumes are higher in the market, while the business of Ambuja is down, as they have not opened up their trade to new sales to non-trade customers. Now in the eastern region, if you see, the demand has been strong over the past few months and is likely to sustain till the summer season. However, demand in the month of December was a bit soft according to dealers. Now they're also suggesting that the prices have increased by around 10 to 15 rupees per bag in the month of January, and in the last 4 months, if you see, the prices have increased by nearly 30 to 35 rupees, and they're expecting these prices to remain stable at least in the near term. And when it comes to the western region, if you see, the dealers are suggesting that the strong demand has been witnessed in the states owing to various infrastructure projects, robust housing sector demand and industrial segment. They're also saying that projects like bullet train, metro projects and in several cities and GIDC township projects are the key reasons why the demand has been very good in the western region. They're also suggesting that the prices have increased in the western region by around 15 rupees per bag over the past 1 month, and dealers are expecting for one more round of price hike in the coming weeks. Now prices are expected to move upwards, and correction is unlikely over the next 2 to 3 months according to dealers.
Well, thank you so much for that, Somit. And moving from auto to cement to IT now, Q3 earnings, Infosys is all set to release its numbers, and the street is expecting revenue and profitability both to jump on a sequential basis. Currency tailwinds could partly offset the lower growth numbers, but what else should we expect from Infosys' numbers? Anisha is here with all the details.
Let me start with Infosys first. The stock has been fairly range-bound of late on account of the support coming in with respect to the buyback which is underway. But separately, if you look at the quarter gone by, it was up as much as 8%. It's trading at 23 times forward earnings, so it has come off substantially than the peak of over 30 times that we had seen, but still trading higher than the 10-year averages. Now, with respect to numbers specifically, we are expecting that the dollar revenue will jump up by around 1%, while the rupee revenue is expected to grow by 4% to come in closer to around 38,000 crore rupees. There might be a situation of higher furloughs, though we haven't heard such commentary come in from TCS, but for now the analysts are pegging in that there might be a bit of higher furlough for Infosys this time around. The constant currency growth is expected to be around 1.2%, and that compares with 4% growth that we had seen last quarter. Of course, a seasonality coming into the picture here. As far as the margin is concerned, that is where we are expecting quite a bit of improvement. In fact, 40 basis point is what we have penciled in, and that is because there will be some impact coming in on account of better utilization, pyramidization, as well as rupee tailwind, and that might be a tad bit offset by the furloughs that we just talked about. The profit figure should be healthy at around 6,550 crores. Now, in terms of the large deal bookings, it's expected to be a tad bit muted towards the lower end of the range of $2 to $2.5 billion, while the guidance for FY23 is something that we expect the company to maintain. Remember, it was around 15 to 16% revenue growth for the entire year, with a margin profile of around 21 to 22%. So that is what we are expecting, that rally will continue.
Well, thank you for that, Anisha, but I'll ask you to stay back as HCL Tech is also about to come out with its Q3 results. What is the street expecting exactly from HCL Tech, Anisha?
For HCL Tech separately, we've already got that warning of sorts on account of higher furloughs from the company in the month of December on account of the Investor Day, wherein they said that they will only be able to achieve the lower end of their guided range, which was around 13.5% to 14.5% revenue growth for FY23. But they did maintain that margins will be able to be sustainable around 18 to 19% mark. And that is what we're expecting this time around as well. And despite the higher furloughs in Q3, we are expecting a better number to come by, because for the product and platform business, this is a seasonally stronger quarter. So there we are expecting a growth of 18 to 20%. And for services business, that might be a tad bit muted, anywhere between 1 to 2%. As a result, dollar revenue is seen up by 3%. Rupee revenue is expected to jump up by around solid 6%. And constant currency growth is also expected to be over 3%. Margin might see an improvement of around 80 basis points, again on account of rupee tailwind, better operating leverage as well as the operational efficiencies, and consequently the profit should be higher by 5.5% to 3,680 crore. TCV, however, might be a tad bit flattish. The management did say in the recent interaction that it continues to be robust, but the street is penciling in a number of around $2 to $2.5 billion. And as far as hiring is concerned, we'll watch out for that number, because TCS actually gave a bit of a shocker with that headcount decline. So we'll watch out for the headcount trends coming in from both of these companies, plus the commentary on growth outlook will be important to watch.
Well, thank you so much for that, Anisha. And with that, we're completely out of time on this edition of Market Cafe. With the SGX Nifty at around that 18,000 mark, we'll leave it at that. Of course, the market will take all the action forward.